Matthew Coleman was a well-known practicing psychiatrist in Cleveland, Ohio. Over the years, he had built a good reputation for himself. He was successful and progressing in his career. He was married, well settled with a house and a car of his own, and even had 2 children. Everything in his life was going great until he met Cassandra about 5 weeks ago, and now it seemed all the happiness in his life had become lost. That morning, 5 weeks ago, he was running late for work, having dropped off his kids to school. He rushed into his office, greeted by his receptionist like every other morning. "Good morning, Dr. Coleman." "Morning, Anna. Are there any appointments scheduled today?" "Yes, there's a new patient. She's been waiting a while." "All right, send her in." Matthew sat down in his office, looking through the patient files. It was a young woman named Cassandra Galen. When she first walked into his office, Matthew was surprised by how good-looking she was. Her smile, her body language, everything about her said she was confident. Why was she even here? "Hello, Miss Cassandra Galen. How is everything?" "Hello, doctor. It's complicated. But I'm still in doubt whether it was the right decision for me coming here. If I should be here at all." "Well, if you're here, there must be a reason for it. There's no shame in seeking help. That doesn't make us weak. Even the strongest of us sometimes need that support, and above all, whatever conversations we have here will remain here, absolutely confidential." "Doctor, I'm not a good woman. I've done many bad things. Things that are immodest and unspeakable. I don't know why I'm like this, or why I can't just be normal like other women." Sometimes we're more critical about ourselves than we should be. Can you really define what normal is? Everyone is different in their own ways. It's not necessarily a good or bad thing. There is good and bad present in everyone. "No, doctor, you know when something isn't right. Everything about me tells me I'm not normal. I have a problem. I'm not like the others." "Why do you say that?" "I have an extreme fascination with male body parts." Matthew put down his pen and looked at her with a smile. "To be honest with you, Cassandra, that's actually quite normal. We all have our fantasies." "No, doctor, I have extreme fantasies." "Can you elaborate on that?" I want to..." As Cassandra confessed her fantasies, her urges and desires, Matthew listened to her in awe. In all these years, speaking to so many patients, he had never been this impacted by any one of them. In fact, he was trained not to be affected personally by the lives of his patients. But this time, he couldn't help but be mesmerized by this young woman. Every word she spoke, every little confession of hers, felt like it was changing him, changing the way he thought. The more she explained herself, the more Matthew became spellbound by her. He was left wanting more than what she wanted to reveal. "Thank you, doctor. Speaking to you has actually made me feel a bit relieved." "That's wonderful. Perhaps we should have a few more sessions, Cassandra. I'll have a weekly schedule set up for you." "All right." Even after Cassandra left, Matthew couldn't stop thinking about her, about the things she told him. The more he thought about it, the more eager he became for when she would return the following week. "Have you experienced any of these desires since we last spoke?" "Yes, doctor. I can't help myself. I've lost track of all the people who have become victim of my lust." "Cassandra, everyone has these feelings. Lust and desire is present in everyone." Matthew tried to understand her. He spoke with her for longer than he counseled any other of his patients. Perhaps not to help, but because he himself couldn't help develop lust for her. He was having desires he never had before. He was struggling with urges he never felt before. Every session with Cassandra felt like it was transforming him psychologically, and things were getting to the point where he was changing as a person. Matthew wasn't himself anymore. He wasn't the happy, optimistic man he used to be. His behavior was changing. With every day that passed of Cassandra roaming in his mind, it was becoming difficult for him to focus. His urges were stronger, and he found himself subconsciously seeking to fulfill them. Every time he went out of his office, his eyes caught sight of Anna. He had never noticed her until now. She looked beautiful, desirable. "Good evening, Dr. Coleman. Here are the files you were waiting for." "Thank you, Anna." Matthew couldn't help but look at her, stare at her body. It was within a while that he realized she was looking at him too. She uncomfortably shifted in her seat before she asked, "Doctor, is everything okay?" "Yes, it's fine." Without saying much, Matthew returned to his office and closed the door. He tried to clear his mind, but all he really did was wait for Cassandra. He wasn't able to focus on any of his other patients, and simply sat there while they spoke on and on to him. "Cassandra, you're a little late today." "Sorry, doctor, I got a bit held up, but are you growing a beard?" Matthew held his chin and chuckled. "You noticed? You should keep it, it suits you." "So tell me, how was your week?" "I've been having dreams. I've been fantasizing about things I wouldn't dare tell anyone." Listening to Cassandra only revived his urges, made him wanting more. He was having difficulty keeping self-control. It started to affect his family life. It had been days since he spent time with his kids. As a matter of fact, he didn't want to. Every night when he returned home, they would be waiting to play with him. But Matthew simply ate his food, didn't talk much, and went to his study. "What happened to Dad? Is he okay? Mom, is Dad angry with us?" "No, sweetheart. Maybe he's just tired from all the hard work." Sarah, his wife, had even noticed a change in him. It was near midnight when she came to the study. "Matthew, you've been here for a long time. Aren't you going to come to bed?" "Yes, I'll be there in a while." "Is something wrong? You've been really quiet lately. You've been avoiding the kids. You've been avoiding even me." "It's nothing." In desperate want to fulfill his desires, Matthew spent the night with his wife. But he ended up staying awake much of the night, still thinking about Cassandra. The next morning, he dressed up in a hurry to get to work. He sat at the table just barely skimming through his emails when his wife came to him with coffee and smiled. "What happened to you last night, Matthew? You were amazing. We've been married for so many years. We even have 2 kids, but we've never had a night this wild before." Matthew tried to smile at his wife, but deep down inside, he still felt so unsatisfied. All Matthew was doing was replaying those moments he spent with Cassandra, remembering her every word, her every expression, imagining himself with her. It felt like he was living another life in his mind. He was in another place. He felt so disoriented. Life was becoming difficult. But on the 4th week, the day Matthew was anxiously waiting for Cassandra, and she didn't arrive to her appointment, Matthew became disheartened. He hurried out to the reception and asked Anna, "Did Cassandra Galen come today?" "No, doctor. She canceled her appointment today. She said she would try to reschedule next week." Matthew couldn't understand why she would cancel. Was she planning on stopping the sessions? Why wouldn't she come? "Okay, call her tomorrow and reschedule the appointment." "Sure, doctor." Matthew waited until the next week, desperately wishing to meet her again. But Cassandra didn't arrive to the office nor leave him a message. Matthew couldn't focus on anything anymore. All he thought about was the next time he would see Cassandra. Life couldn't go on like this. He had to do something. But what? What would he do? He paced to and fro under the dark, gloomy skies. He stared at the first drops of rain speckle the ground. What was he waiting for? He felt what he felt. He wanted Cassandra. He needed Cassandra. And he'd do whatever he had to have her. Matthew went to his office and met Anna. "Did you reschedule the appointment with Cassandra?" "I tried, doctor, but she hasn't been answering the calls." "Give me her address." "Is everything all right?" "Give me her address, Anna. I don't have time." Matthew hurried out to his car, looking at Cassandra's address. She lived about an hour away from here. He pressed on the gas and swerved the car around on the road. He drove across town to Cassandra's house. And parked on the other side of the street, trying to get a glimpse of her through the window. It was dark. The shades were drawn. Desperate, Matthew went out into the pouring rain and walked onto her porch. Now soaking wet, he knocked on the door. But there was no answer. It was late at night. She had to be home. Why wasn't she opening? So Matthew went to the back of the house and broke in through one of the windows. He stepped inside to a dark house. The sound of the raindrops were heavy on the roof as he walked down the hall, peering into each room. All of a sudden, he heard a voice behind him. "Why are you here?" He turned to see Cassandra standing there, staring at him. "I want you." "No, you don't want me." "You're right. I don't want you. I need you." "Matthew, it's better you go from here. Don't tempt me. I won't be able to help myself." "You don't have to hold back. I want to be your victim, Cassandra. Make me your victim." As Matthew walked up to her, Cassandra stared into his eyes. "Deep down inside, I almost lost control when I was speaking to you. I wanted you too. I didn't know if I would be able to resist, so I stopped coming." "You don't have to resist anymore. I'll fulfill all your fantasies." Cassandra took Matthew's hand and led him down the hall to her room. "Come with me." She sat him down before she whispered, "Then fulfill all my fantasies." After spending the night with Cassandra, Matthew fell asleep at her house, in her bed, finally content. But it was some time later that night that he woke up feeling a bit strange. He had a numbness in his head. When he opened his eyes, he was a bit surprised to find both his hands and legs tied to the four corners of the bed. Matthew smirked at Cassandra, watching him from the edge of the bed. "Haven't we played enough games?" "The game has only begun, sweetheart." Matthew suddenly froze, seeing Cassandra playing with a scalpel in her hands. She crawled onto the bed by his feet, but now every motion she took towards him brought not lust, but fear. All this time, Matthew had thought Cassandra's hunger was like his hunger, but now he realized Cassandra's hunger was very different from his own. She was right. She wasn't normal. She wasn't like the others. What she had was a very different kind of urge for a man's body, the only thing that brought her a bizarre satisfaction and contentment. And now, Matthew was going to be that man. "Cassandra, no, Cassandra, listen to me. You need help." "Didn't you say you'll fulfill all my fantasies?" Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.